Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Putri Lailatul Nadira binti Muhammad Fuad. My matrix number is 265215. So today, I will give an explanation on the conflict analysis of my topic chosen, which is the West Papua conflict. Before I jump into the discussions of the conflict analysis of my topic, I will give a bit explanations on the background of the West Papua conflict. So basically, the West Papua conflict is a conflict between the West Papua populations and also the Republic of Indonesia. This conflict is actually an ongoing conflict where it first started in October 1962, and this conflict keep going until these present days. So basically, about 58 years, this conflict is keep going. Specifically, this conflict involved dispute between the government of Indonesia and their security force with the Free Papua movement, which is an organization that stands for the right of the West Papua people. Not only that, as stated in history, the main causes of this conflict is actually about the demand of the West Papua to get an independence. So basically, the tensions of this conflict escalate when the Indonesia don't want to give an independence toward the West Papua, and basically this is because the Indonesia think that the West Papua is primitive and backwards, so they don't want to give West Papua independence, instead remain the West Papua under their control, the Indonesia province. So without giving an independence, there are also happen cases that related to violence and oppressions toward the West Papua people and their poverty. From my observation, I think this happened due to the different ability between the disputing parties, which is the West Papua and the Indonesia. In fact, West Papua is the weakest one if compared to the Indonesia, that I think it has a lot of ability, especially in the army, and I think Indonesia is one of the developed country. Okay, now moving to the discussions on the conflict analysis. So basically, conflict analysis are often explain the whole story plainly, and it also provide a clarifications of the root causes of the conflict as well as the consequence of the problems present. In conflict analysis, there are about 4 tools that can be used, and conflict wheel, conflict trees, and also conflict mapping are among the tools included in the conflict analysis. So in these discussions, I choose conflict tree as a tool in describing the West Papua conflict. Meanwhile, in conflict trees, there is 3 elements that will be highlighted or be discussed, which is the first is the causes of the problem, second one the core problem, and the last one is the impact of the problem. Just imagine a tree, there will be a root, the trunk, and then the leaf. So back to the 3 elements of the conflict trees, the causes will be present as the root, and the core problem will be the trunk of the trees, and then the impact of the problem will present as a tree, as a leaf. So in West Papua conflict, culture of resistance and as well as colonization and decolonization are the causes or the roots of the conflict. According to that, culture of resistance are mutual event happen due to the West Papua conflict. For example, there is a lot of activities like attacking each other between the West Papua people and the Indonesian security force. Meanwhile, colonization and decolonizations are also the main causes of the West Papua conflict. As stated in history, the sovereignty over the West Papua often change hands. For example, West Papua was under the Dutch colonial at first stage, and then West Papua was transferred into the Indonesian control. However, West Papua never accept that they need to be under the colonial control. As a consequence, the West Papua is so adamant about gaining their independence. So now, move to the core problem and the impact or the consequence of the conflict. So basically, the desire for independence is the central issue in the West Papua conflict. However, when the West Papua were denied for freedom, they launched a separatist campaign and they also engaged in insurgent movements such as protests. So that's the core problem of the conflict. And then when there is a protest, it basically will lead to a massive negative impact, and even worse, a massacre or genocide will be erupted. So that the direct impact of the conflict. Referring to the West Papua conflict, bad relationship, resentment, poverty, refugee, as well as human rights abuse are among the impact emerged coming from the roots of the problem. So, as a conclusion, to sum up all above, it shows how the conflict tree describes the West Papua conflict, with the roots become the trigger to the problem, and then the trunk become the separatist conflict, which is also known as the core problem, and then the last one, the leaf of the tree, play a role as the impact or the consequence of the conflict. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.